I am very excited for what we're going to do today. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Steven Human. This is Superhuman Customs, where we just customize action figures for good or bad. Sometimes they turn out great, sometimes they turn out garbage, but we're here to just have fun and learn and try new things. Today, we're gonna do something pretty awesome. So in that big lot I got a couple of months ago, I had this Aquaman figure and I had the Superman from the Injustice games, which I didn't care for. So I used the S for that on the Superboy that I did. And then I was just playing around and I was like, oh, this could be a good body because he's got some great textures for like, if I wanted to redo my Super Patriot, or not Super Patriot, what's his name? Super Soldier from the Amalgam universe, the half Captain America, half Superman. And so I was thinking about that, but then I was like, well, you know, I've got that figure, and yeah, I did it a long time ago and it's not great, but it's fine. And then I looked at him and I started messing around with heads and I thought, oh, what if I just did a Captain America figure? And I've got this head from the Injustice Superman. We're gonna remove his hair. And he's already got like a strap on his chin, which is why I was like, I don't know what I'm ever gonna do with this head, but this is perfect. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna grind down the shield a little bit, we're gonna put some milliput all over, we're gonna make our own version of Captain America, and he is gonna turn out awesome, so let's dive right in. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this sander to sand down the Superman sign and get it nice and smooth. So we ground down the Superman sign off of here, and we'll smooth that out with a milliput. Now I've got the head in, very hot water, and it's been soaking. Oh, that's burning my finger. There we go. And now let's see if we can get the hair off. Now, sometimes it comes off real easy, sometimes it doesn't. You just gotta kind of experiment and pull on it. That's why I got the needle nose pliers. So I'm gonna go around, see if I can find a weak spot. That's usually what I do. And once I find that, I can get it off. So this is harder hair, but it is a separate piece, so it will come off. I've just got to manhandle it a little bit. Oh, there we go. It's starting to come off. Now, I am not trying to make him look exactly like the Captain America from the movies. It's not what I'm going for, but I do want to get a good look at the mask. And so I've just kind of got this up here. I've got some milliput. I've rolled it out nice and thin. And I'm going to lay it in place, more or less, to get a good feel for where I want the bottom of the mask to be. And obviously I'm going to have to pat it down. See, and this kind of comes up over his chin, so I'm going to shift that. That's why I don't have any glue on at this point. I'll put some glue on the top, and then once this is linked to it, it should hold pretty well. But I want this to be free because I need to be able to shift it around. I think that'll work pretty good. I'm going to take this guy and I'm just going to start rolling it in place and getting it to where it looks good. And then we will do the rest of the mask. It's not looking too bad. I need to raise it up over that ear, but that's looking pretty Captain America-ish. Now there's gonna be a lot of experimentation with this guy. First of all, he's gotta have an A on his forehead and a star on his chest. So I'm gonna try and cut these out of these shapes, starting with the star. Now I'm going to do it in sections to try and make it so that it is more manageable, and then pat it all together. So we'll see if it works, you know, but then at least we're going to have what appears to be a complete straight star and then an A over here. Again, when you're doing these things by hand, it's never going to be perfect, and so you just have to accept that. And if that's not what you want out of your custom figures, then you're going to have to 3D print. But if you're like me and I like to do things with my hands here, this is what I enjoy, then you just have to accept the fact that you can get it close, but it's never going to be perfect. And this is a perfect experimentation of this truth in trying to get these symbols as close as humanly possible to what they should look like. Originally I was going to cut the A out, but I've thought better of that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these little pieces and I'm going to lay them across here and pat them in. I think that that will look better because then I can roll them really thin with my finger and then cut and bring them up. So I think that's how I'm going to do it. I think that's going to look out pretty good. And that's the same thing I'm going to do down here with the stripes. All right, a couple of things. So I spent a lot of time doing the helmet and getting the A right. And now I wish that I had done this with my Daredevil that I did a couple months ago, because then I could have done the 3D. It was really simple doing just the rolling it out and forming it. Anyway, you'll notice here with the stripes that they are not even, they're not straight. Because what happened is that I got them in place after doing this and doing the star, and I ended up having to rush out. So I got them and glued in place, and I had to leave. And I did not get a chance to cut them into straighter lines before they dried. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a Dremel and I'm gonna do my best to grind those out, and hopefully I can straighten them up, and then we'll be able to, start painting. So this has actually been working pretty good. Going through and it's straightening them out, getting rid of some of the excess. But what it's also doing is that it's sanding down in between here and getting rid of kind of the texture, which I wasn't planning on doing, but because it's doing it, it's actually working out pretty well, because this is generally a different texture than the rest of his suit with the scales, the kind of the armor scales. So I'm going to let that happen. I'm going to go through a little bit more and get rid of some of that texture so that this will be a little bit smoother and it will stand out. So that'll be cool. As Samuel plays music in the background and plays the guitar. What I'm doing now is I'm taking a gray that I've got, and I'm gonna go over the mask. Now it's a cheap gray, but it's the perfect color. It's this terracotta. It's just a hobby paint. But what I've done is I've watered it down, because these paints tend to be very thick and blotchy. And so I've just watered it down, and it will go on really nice. And that will give me the same shade as the rest of the body, so that when I do the blue, because you guys know I like to do very light coats, and that's what gives me such a good coverage where it's not blotchy. That will make it so that everything matches, because the underlying color will be the same. So right now I'm going through with a fairly thick brush to get coverage. Then I'll go through with a thinner one and get this guy all taken care of so that he looks like a gray Captain America, more like US Agent than anything else. Before I call it a night, I want to get the white in here. And I'm just gonna go all over it. Get the white going, so it'll be the base, then I'll do the red afterward. But this will add some really nice contrast so far to the figure, and it'll be nice and quick. So that's what I'm gonna do. Let's paint the red on the stripes here. Just gonna go up, do a coat on each of them, and go from there. Now you'll see there's a little bit of red here. What I did is I took a little bit of red fabric paint, because the edges down there were a little bit like square. And so when I put that, it's just rounded them out, smoothed them out, so that they looked a little bit more natural. So we're gonna do this, and then we are going to do this with some Milliput. Got a little bit of glue on here, and I made a whole bunch of Milliput, and we're gonna work on like 3 different figures right now. Which is I've been putting it off. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this in place on the shield, and then I'm gonna start mushing it around and getting it so that it covers it. That's gonna be the easiest way to do it. And then what I'm gonna do, this is fun. All of you of a certain age, like me, will know what this is. It's a compass. We're gonna take it. I'm gonna put this X-Acto knife in here, and we're gonna stick it, and that's how we're gonna form the circles. So we're getting very creative, very old school for this Captain America shield, but I think it's going to work, and it's gonna look cool. Yes, this is looking screwy, but oh well. I knew this was gonna be iffy from the moment that I set out to do this guy. We're gonna have to do some sanding. We'll see, it might, I don't know. I could go and buy a Captain America for the shield, but then I've got a Captain America without a shield. So we're gonna see if we can we're gonna pat this down, see if we can smooth this out a little bit. Right now it looks like a funky Captain America cookie, but we're experimenting. So I've sanded it down, it's still not perfect, but one of the things I noticed is that if you look at the back, the shield is actually slightly warped.
and it was before. So it's more pronounced now. I'm going to sand down a little bit more to get down some of the, there's a few little spots that you can see, but you can still see the lines in here even when I've sanded it. But I did want to point that out, that the shield itself is not perfectly round because of just the plastic. So, it's something you got to deal with sometimes.
Let's keep going on cap here. Let's do some blue. Now what I've done is I've taken this blue right here, which is just a Azul Ultramarine from Vallejo, and I watered it down a little bit because I wanted to obviously get into all of the cracks here, and it's a very thick paint. So I just added literally a drop of water, and that should be enough. And I'm using a big brush to get, the primary coverage here, and then I'll use a smaller one to get the details around the belt and the boots and all that sort of stuff. But I'm doing this so that I can get moving on it and not have it take a ton of time to get the majority of this character. So that's what I'm going to do. Move it around, move up here, and get Captain America blue. This guy is the perfect example of why doing things by hand just leads to imperfections. And if that is okay with you, then great. Otherwise, you're going to be disappointed. Because obviously nothing in here is perfect. The star isn't quite perfect. The A is not quite perfect. The shield, holy crap, is definitely not perfect. I took some blue and I watered it down because I wanted to see if I could see through the silver, because I'm going to use my model layer red for the red, and the silver will come through. The shield is just screwy, man. I think it's going to look okay while it's on his arm, but again, there's just, yeah. Like I said before, I could just buy a shield off of another character, but I wanted to do this. I wanted to give it a try, and it's turning out the way it's turning out. I've got to be okay with that, and you'll have to be okay with it if you choose to do the same. What I'm going to do here, though, so I forgot that most versions of Captain America have red gloves that kind of start up here, and I'm out of Milliput. I use the Milliput here. I use it on a couple of other figures. All at once, I'm out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of my favorite medium, some fabric paint, and on both of these, I'm just going to add in the layer here, the thick layer that he's got. And I'm going to go around. That'll give a three-dimensional layer to things, and then I can paint the red gloves on, and then paint white up here, and we'll go for it. So it's one way to do things, and imperfection is the name of the game in this, but if you're going to do it this way, you got to be okay with it, and so I've got to be okay with it. Now we're just going to go through and get some of the extra details. As you can see, this is a crappy brush. I should have grabbed another one. Oh well. That's one thing you got to watch out for, is that eventually, especially if you're using them for like dry brushing and stuff, which I try and only use my big brush, you'll get stray hairs, and if you're doing any kind of detail work at all, it's just going to screw you up. So I'm going to retire this guy and get a better brush. I watered down the white, as you can see, so it can get everywhere. So I'll probably need another coat over the top, but this will work pretty well for now. Despite the imperfections in like the shield and in some of the Milliput stuff, he is looking pretty good. And the coloring is looking really nice. I mean, this blue, especially watering it down. It's one thing that I'm learning is that, some of these paints can be really thick. And if I water them down just a little bit, they go on really beautifully. Coverage is great. And yeah, it's just something that I've learned over time. So, but his coloring is looking really nice. So obviously we're just doing the red here, going over all of this. And then once that's done, we'll do the belt, and we'll do a nice dry brush over the top. Give this guy a little bit of life and something a little bit extra. Before we get into some of these details, let's go ahead and do the belt. I looked at a lot of pictures of Captain America. His belt's usually brown with a silver buckle. So that's what we're gonna do. Even though this has some interesting detail in it, still just gonna go with brown. I might, when I do some of the details with the silver on some of these areas, I might do a dry brush of silver in here. I'm not sure. Let's just see how it looks before we make any kind of decisions on that. Well, we got him drying. Let's go ahead and start messing with our messed up little shield here. We're using a Model Air red paint, which is very thin, because I want to have the metallic sheen on this sucker. And we're just going to go around and get some coverage. And it's not going to look great right now. And you know what? It might not look great when we're done. But we're going to do our best to salvage this as best we can. And that's how sometimes that's the best you can do. So, yeah. Now with our imperfect shield, I'm going to put some gloss on here. I want this to just be shiny. Have it look like it's, that it's polished and all that good stuff. Like I said, I think once it's on his arm, it's going to look, because when you twist it, then it really becomes obvious of just how lopsided everything is. But once it's on his arm, I think that won't be quite so pronounced. Now let's just get some gunmetal gray on the belt buckle, and then I'll do a smattering of silver on it. So if I wanted to leave him like this, I could. He looks like a classic Captain America. However, I don't want to do that. If I'm going to have a lopsided shield with a questionable Captain America, I'm going to do a couple cool things to it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some metallic blue, and I'm going to hit these areas on the side here that look more armor-like. And I'm just going to dust it on there. And do that here, and on the legs. And then I'm going to take some shade, we're going to darken in some of this. We're just going to add some highlights and then do a dry brush over the top. And that will make him look just a little bit more cool. And then he'll hold his lopsided shield. Because when Captain America throws his lopsided shield, all those who chose to oppose his shield must be disappointed that he has a lopsided shield. Now you can see we're going to go through with my black wash, my game wash that I use all the time. And we're just going to highlight some of these areas. This will get dulled down a little bit when I go over with the dry brush. So I'm going to put a little bit more. This might be a little bit too much. That's what happens sometimes when I'm not paying attention. That's why sometimes I do things off camera, honestly, so I can pay a little bit more attention. But it'll all get toned down with the dry brush, and I found that this is the best way to do this sort of stuff, because when I put it on nice and thick, it just is too much. And so I like to dry brush, and that will add the perfect tone. Now the time has come to dry brush. So I've got just a little bit on here, and we'll see whether that's enough. It's a really light blue that I've got on here, and it might not be enough. I've dusted it off, but I'm not really seeing much. So I'm gonna get a little bit more, and I'm gonna dust it off over here, and then we'll see. And I want it to hit these ridges and just lighten things up while keeping the base blue still blue. And hopefully this will give us a nice look. I'm waiting on whether to do it with the helmet or to make it like the arms here and add metallic to it. So we'll find out once I've got this guy all dolled up as to whether or not I want to do that or not. Last thing I'm going to do with Captain America is I've decided that I am going to make his helmet metallic. I think it'll make it stand out. It makes more sense to me personally that it would be metallic, because obviously it's a helmet meant to be bulletproof and such. So having it have this sheen, I think, will be very nice. Make it stand out, and then we will be done with our Captain America and his beautiful lopsided shield. All right, after painting his mask with the with the more metallic, it stands out a little bit too much. But so what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take some leather brown, and I'm going to paint these straps right here. And I think what that'll do is break it up and make it look more like, okay, it's a helmet. And so right here on his chin will remain blue. And then the rest right here up to his mask will be brown and be leather. And I think that'll help. It'll help to differentiate it. So I'm going to do that. And if it doesn't work out, then, well, kind of screwed. I mean, I can paint over it, obviously, but I'm thinking it's going to work. Let's hope. And we have Captain America. Obviously not perfect, because when you're doing things by hand,
They're never going to turn out perfect, but still looks pretty cool. It's going to look cool on the shelf. When you're not twisting the shield around, it tends to look okay. Once you're turning it, you really notice that it's lopsided. But then part of that is the plastic, because with the Superman sign, once you took that off and you started turning it, you saw that the plastic had actually morphed it a little bit. So you do what you can. If in the future I want to buy another Captain America, I had the chance last weekend when thinking about making this character, and I think it was like $7 and it came with a shield, but I wasn't sure if the shield would be the right scale, so I was like, oh, I'm not gonna worry about it. But I might invest in something like that and just pick it up and see if one of these shields does fit. But for now, this is cool. And it was made by hand by me, which makes it special to me. So I'm happy how this guy turned out. He definitely does look cool. I mean, the colors pop and stuff, and on the shelf, he's gonna draw some attention to himself. And when you think about that, it started out as a figure that I never would have used because I don't care about Aquaman in the stealth suit, and a head from a character that I didn't care for, and now you got a Captain America. That's pretty cool. Well, thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoy these. Hope you learned something. If you have tips for me, feel free to share them, because you guys are always leaving tips that help me to progress, and I want to be able to progress and do better things and use my tools, in new and innovative ways. So thank you so much for watching. Check out StephenHumanAuthor.com, and I'll see you guys next week.